and welcome to phonetics. Phonetics is the branch of linguistics that studies the sounds of speech. When we say speech sounds, we are referring to the segments of speech that is the smallest part of a continuous stream of oral speech that is recognizable as belonging to the language. Most often, this means the consonants and vowels of a language, although for some languages we may also refer to tones as a kind of segment, and we'll get into that a little bit later. One of the tasks the human brain is capable of doing in perceiving a stream of speech is to automatically filter out non-linguistic information. You can still understand your friend talking to you despite minor differences in speech rate, voice quality, disfluencies such as small pauses or coughs, or even background noise like a car honking. We will automatically identify the speech sounds of our own language. And also, when we talk about speech sounds, we're not just including the sounds of English, but speech sounds refer to all the speech sounds of all the languages of the world, some of which we may incorporate into our culture as a non-linguistic sound, even if we don't recognize it as a segment of English. So, for example, the sound we make to express displeasure in English or in our English-speaking culture is a speech sound of the language Xhosa, where it is combined with consonants and vowels just like any other speech sound. Other speech sounds may not exist in our culture at all, like the uvular trill ra of Semitic languages like Hebrew and Arabic, which sometimes make it difficult for English speakers to learn and produce these sounds. In phonetics, we study how speech sounds are produced, heard, and understood. These basic studies are often broken up into three branches of phonetics: acoustic, auditory, and articulatory. Acoustic phonetics includes studying the raw acoustic properties of these sounds. Note that the raw sound that is produced may be different from how we think of the sounds in our language, and we're going to talk more about how we think about sounds in relation to our language and how they matter for the organization of our language when we get to our phonology module. Auditory phonetics deals with how we hear and understand sounds and looks at all of the organs of the ear and the nervous system that interpret the audio signal. Articulatory phonetics is what we will be focusing on the most in this class, and that is how sounds are produced in the vocal tract. So one of the first things we learn in phonetics is the distinction between sound and orthography, or spelling. Orthography is a really problematic way of expressing the sounds of a language for a variety of reasons. English has a particularly complex orthography which demonstrates these problems rather neatly. So, for example, if you remember having to memorize words for spelling tests in elementary school and how often the spelling didn't make any sense, that's precisely the kind of thing that we're running into here in linguistics as well. One problem is that a sound may be expressed by multiple combinations of letters. So in English, the sound E may be expressed by the single letter E, or by a combination of the letters EO or EY or IE and many other spelling variations. Another problem is that the same letter can express different sounds. So the letter A can be an ah sound, could be an ah sound, or it could be a or or many other sounds depending on what word we find it in. You also have combinations of letters that really represent just a single sound as opposed to two sounds in sequence. So for example, the letters SH represent just one sound, sh. If you think about it, when you make a sh, you're really just making one sound, as opposed to making a s sound followed by a h sound. And likewise, instances such as a ch for a k or a ph for a f, etc. All of these are examples of multiple letters that we're actually using to represent a single sound. Conversely, a single letter could represent multiple sounds. For example, the last X in the word Xerox really represents a sequence of two sounds, k and s. So, x, Xerox. Yet we always write it as one letter in this word. Some letters we may not produce at all, like the silent E that shows up in so many English words, or the N in a word like autumn, the B in a word like lamb, the K in a word like not. So say these words slowly and pay attention to the sounds you are making. Do you produce a K sound in the word not? Not. What about the word autumn? Say it with me. Autumn. Do you produce an N sound at the end of that word, or do you just have an M sound at the end of that word? There may also be cases where we produce a sound that is not represented in the orthography at all. For example, listen closely to the word use. Do you hear a Y-like sound at the beginning of the word? Use. Say it with me. Use. We don't write a Y at all in the spelling, but we still produce the word as if it had one. We produce a sound that we leave out of the spelling. And note, if we did produce the word without the Y sound, as it is spelled, it would actually sound like quite a different word of English. Ooze. So the moral of the story, and a very important lesson to remember if you learn nothing else from this chapter, is that spelling does not equal sounds. Despite what the phonics books may say, letters are not sounds, and we cannot rely on them to tell us what sounds people are producing when they pronounce words. So instead of using letters or a language's orthography, in phonetics we use the International Phonetic Alphabet, which is abbreviated IPA. Note, in linguistics, IPA is not a beer. The IPA was invented specifically to overcome all the difficulties that regular orthography presents. It is like a brand new writing system, but one in which there is a one-to-one relation between the symbol and the sound. So one symbol equals one sound, and that symbol will always equal that sound. There is no monkey business with it sometimes representing one sound and sometimes representing another sound, or sometimes being silent or anything like that. All right, so the next video will introduce and examine the IPA in greater detail. Thank you.